Guys, well, we're going to transition into the Hardin County housing market update. So I've got some insights to share with you guys on what's happening in our local real estate market. So the information I'm going to share with you is from the week of the 27th of January through today, February 3rd. Everything that I share comes from the Heart of Kentucky Association of Realtors, MLS. So I am Rachel Brantingham. I am your local housing market update. And we're going to talk through what's happening. So here's a snapshot of what you're seeing in the market right now. Over the last week, we've had 19 new listings come on the market, which is actually a kind of impressive number considering the elements that we're dealing with. We've had several that we want to go up, but of course, photographing them in the snow and ice has been a bit of a challenge. But 19 homes went live. We saw 17 homes go under contract. So I just want to celebrate that because these agents are getting out and risking legs and limbs to open doors, and we saw a ton of showings on our properties last week. So if you want to get out and see some homes, contact your local agent because they're still getting out there and doing that despite all the snow. And 25 new families moved into their new homes. So even with the winter weather and snow slowing things down a bit, homes are still moving, buyers are active, and transactions are continuing to close. So looking at market pace, the average days on market over the last 30 days, keep in mind this is just for Hardin County, went up by 1 day to 93 days. Obviously, I don't think that that's going to be, it's not telling us that there's a huge slowdown in the market. I think that's just specific to the fact that we've got snow and ice on the ground. But just 1 day of an increase there. From an inventory standpoint, there are currently 367 active homes on the market. We've seen 59 homes sell in the last 30 days. Currently, we're at a 6.2 months of inventory on the market. Still pretty balanced. That's a drop from about 8 months as of last week. But of course, as I explained last week, that was taking information from over the holiday season where during Christmas and New Year's, title companies are closed, lenders are closed. So we're coming back more in line with what would be a very typical market for both buyers and sellers. It's not really leaning one way or the other. So very balanced. We're no longer in an extreme seller's market, but buyers don't have unlimited leverage either. Strategy really matters on both sides. And I would say one of the most important things is proper pricing. Pricing your home not at the very peak of its value and coming in line with a more aggressive approach will do you really well during this market condition. So over the last 30 days, the average list price here in Hardin County was $346,364, while the average sold price came in at $297,769. So that gap tells us that buyers are very value driven right now. Interest rates are holding between that 5.85 and 5.99 for the conventional buyer. VA, FHA, and USDA rates are closer to that like 5.65, 5.75. So that is helping create a more stable environment for buyers. I think buyers are more incentivized now in comparison to that how they have been in the past 2 years. And because of that, we're starting to see some homes that have sat on the market for some time start to be moving again. So there's one thing that I want to spend just a few minutes on today and what we're seeing with homes that have been sitting on the market. And if you're just not seeing the traction that you expected and or you are comfortable holding that home for some time if you had a return on your investment, I want to talk through something that my team does specifically, and that's where we list a home for rent and for sale at the same exact time. So we've tested this model multiple times now, and we set a rent price and we set a sale price and we offer it on the market and we see which one happens first. And obviously, if we get that perfect renter at that perfect price, my sellers are prepared to rent that property for some time. But this could also be considered kind of a convertible option. If your property has been sitting and you're just not seeing showings, I would look at reduction in price. That is probably your biggest problem. And B, you might consider trying some other alternatives, such as, say, the rental market, which we are still holding steady. Of course, your multi-units, those have dipped a bit in price as far as rent rates. But we're still seeing a lot of our single family homes renting to either military personnel that are coming into the area, or we've seen some contractors coming into the area. But that's something to consider. Has your home been sitting on the market for some time with no real movement, it might be time to consider another option, such as maybe a rent or a price reduction. Okay. So, like I mentioned before, you really want to go into the market with a realistic price. The first couple weeks on the market are your hottest moment in the sale process. It's where you see the most momentum around your property. And so missing the mark with the list price can really end up costing you a lot of money in the end with price reductions over the course of time. Buyer mindset. So buyers today are focused more on their monthly payment, not just the overall purchase price. So they're paying close attention to the condition, like what's it going to cost them over time to update the property? Are the bigger items going to, the HVAC systems, foundations, roofs, things like that? So offering a 1-year warranty could be an incentive to kind of move them forward. They're also watching days on market and price reductions, guys. So going in to the market initially at an aggressive number is going to do better for you and probably reap you a higher return on your investment than trying for that top dollar. Of course, we're continuing to monitor the impact of Blue Oval on our community. We're not really seeing anything that is currently leading us to believe that it is going to have any impact on the housing market itself. That is not to consider rentals. Obviously, we've seen an impact there, but those rent rates are just dipping slightly, and then we're still seeing things remain full. So not a huge impact there. Overall, this is a market where both buyers and sellers can win, but only with the right strategy. Buyers are acting on value, and sellers who are realistic, proactive, and flexible are seeing results. Momentum is building, guys. Last week, I've had a home that was a new construction. It sat on the market for several months with very limited activity, finally go pending. And I'm seeing that across the market. That's not specific to just my listings. We're looking at properties that are finally going pending that have sat for some time. And so we're really building momentum as we go into spring. So I think if I were a buyer considering purchasing in the next 6 months, I would be looking now, because those prices have dipped because of inventory building up over the holiday season. And of course, interest rates have dipped slightly. So I think as both a seller, you can take action now, because we're starting to see those properties and buyers pouring back into the market. And as a buyer, I think you can get a really great deal. So as always, if you want a hyper local breakdown for your neighborhood, price point, or investment goals, I'm happy to help. I love the strategy side of this, and I love looking at real estate as a way to make money. So we'd love to talk with you more. So thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another market update.
We could always use more ways to make money. So
yes. Well, real estate is commonly known as the number one way to maximize your wealth. So it's just, of course, going into it with a very clear approach and strategy and figuring out what works for you and what your threshold is for investing and how you want to approach it. So, all right.